Hello and welcome to another tutorial about Python using the W3schools website. So this tutorial will be about Python numbers. This is a Python tutorial series covering basically all the key parts of Python. So head on over to the W3schools website and go to the Python tab here and then click on Python numbers for this tutorial. You can see the other tutorials that were already done by, going through the tutorial series on Python that I've created already. So in this tutorial, like I said, we're going to look at numbers in Python. So Python numbers. Okay, so there are three numeric types in Python. The first type is int, second is float, and the third is complex. Okay, so int, numbers, float numbers, and complex numbers. Variables of numeric types are created when you assign a value to them. So for example, if you want to, you can create a variable called x and assign it an integer or an int, and it will create a variable of type int, a variable of type float. Here they're assigning 2.8, which is a floating point value to the variable y, and here they're assigning a complex number to a z. Okay, a variable called z. So I just want to explain. So complex numbers just means a number, and then part of the number is so it's made up of a whole number, and then another part of the number which is j, right? I'm not going to go into the explanation of how this works, but just keep in mind that if you see a number and then you see the letter j, it means that it's a complex number. You can research this on your own, what it is and how it works, but just be aware of what this is. If you see a number and j, it means it's a complex number. Okay, so to verify the type of any object in Python, use the type function. And specifically here, we're looking at the type of numbers. So you can do that by going like this. Okay, we'll see it. We'll try in an example here. So I want you to give this a try. Click on the try button, and then in this tab, I want you to click on run. And it will output the type of variable for each one. So as you can see here, let's type this out. I want you to type this out, okay, to try it out yourself. Okay, so comment it out and then try it out. So let's try this. So write x is equal to 1 and then print that. Print x and print the type. Okay, so try that. We did this in the other example, in the other exercise, the previous tutorial, but we're going over it again here just to cover the tutorial, just to cover what's on the website from W3schools. Let's try the next type. So x is equal to, so this is an int. You can write that out also. Let's say 2.0. This is a float. So we'll print. You don't need to actually declare another variable. You could reassign a new value to the same variable name, and it would still output the value, the new value. See here, it's outputting 2.0. And then if we print the type, it's gonna should print out float. And then we're going to call this 2j, and this should be of type complex number. So we're gonna print X here. So it's giving us 2J. See here. And then we're going to print the type. X. And it's giving us type complex. Okay. So you know how to do this now. Okay. Let's check. So now we're familiar with the 3 types of numbers. The 3 types of numbers, and yeah, so let's go on. We've tested it with the type function also. Okay, let's look at the next example here, or information. So here it says int. An int or integer is a whole number meaning to say there's no decimal, positive or negative, without decimals, of unlimited length. Okay, here they're giving us examples. So 1 is an integer, it's a whole number. This long number here is an integer, it's a whole number. This is also a whole number, right? No decimals. It's an integer also. So let's try that. Okay. We're not gonna, I'm not gonna type this out, but if you want to type this out on your own, you can. The only thing I wanted to see though I'm curious if 0 is an int. So I'm going to comment this out here. Whoops. I'll delete this. Is 0 an int? Yeah, it is. Okay, so I was wondering, okay, we know that 1 obviously is an int. It's a whole number. We know that -1 is an int. And also 0 is an int. Okay. Good to know. So let's try the next example here. Oh, whoops, I closed it by mistake. Let's go back. Numbers. Okay, so where were we here? Integers we looked at. Float. So a float, the next one is float, right? So a float, or meaning floating point number, is a number, positive or negative, containing 1 or more decimals. Let's take a look here. So these are numbers with decimals. Okay. Decimal, decimal, negative number with decimal, positive number with decimal. Okay, let's give it a try. Run it. So we have 3 different kinds of floats, floating point numbers. This one here. So it could have also just been 1.1, would still be a float. If we remove the decimal, we end up with an integer. Okay, see int. We put a 0, then we get a float. So any number with a decimal is a float. What about 0.0? What's this? Probably float also, right? Float, yep. Okay. So let's try that. Okay, so any number with a decimal is basically a float. So you could try this on your own. And I'm going to move on to the next exercise, which is complex numbers. Oh no, here. The next exercise is float can also be scientific numbers with an E, okay, to indicate the power of 10. So here, right, a variable is declared 35 to the power of e to the 10, 35 e10, 12 raised to the power of 4, minus 87.7 raised to the power of 100. So basically, This is minus, so this number and then 100 decimal points, right? This number and 3 decimal points. Let's try it. Before we use this type, I'm just curious. Okay, run it first. So they're all floats. Let's get rid of the type here. I just want to see what it gives us. So it's giving us 35 and then 3, right, raised to the power of 3, okay? And then has a decimal, right? What about this? What do you think this one's going to give us? So 12 with 4 zeros, probably, right? Let's see what we get. So 12, yeah. And then 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's also a float, right? What about this? What is this going to give us? So probably minus 87 with 100 zeros. Let's try that. And we get... And it's not displayed because it's too big of a number. Let's change this to 10. So let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then they remove the decimal, and the decimal becomes the 10th one. So what this means, the E really means the number of spaces or the number of values after the decimal, after the the number of spaces times the value, right, times the value. Okay, so in this case, right, 87.7. So if you had 87.7, okay, times 10 would give you basically this number, and then with 10, you replace by 10 decimals. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. Okay, just remember that. If you have a decimal already, then you have to add 9 zeros, and then the last one would be, you'd use this one as the last one. Okay. And then notice how it's negative, and there's also a decimal at the end. So they're all floating point numbers. So we can test that. Go type. Let's run it. Okay. And then what happens if we put minus 10? We get float also, and in this case it would be, right, a smaller number, right? It would be E minus 0.9. Let me make it smaller. Let's say 3. So it would be 0.0877. Okay. And it would be also of type float, because it's a decimal, has a decimal. And notice how it accepts both upper and lowercase e. Okay, I want you to try this one out because this one is not so easy. So I want you to give it a try on your own. So start off by commenting this out. You run it. And then start writing it out. So 35 e to the 3. 35 to the power of 3. 35 raised to the power of 3. Y equals 12e to the 4. Z equals minus 87.7 e to the power of 3 or minus 3. Okay. Let's run it. And then we'll print X, print Y, print Z. Okay, and then we'll print type X, print type Y, print type Z. Okay, so we get these 3 floats. Okay, again. So give it a try and see how it works out for you. Okay, just to get the hang of it. Let's go on to the next exercise. So example, sorry. So this is complex numbers. Complex numbers are written as an J, okay, as the imaginary part. So here, for example, 3 plus 5J, 5J, or minus 5J. If you want to learn more about complex numbers, you can Google it. You could probably read more about this on Wikipedia. But for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to go into the syntax, okay? So try it out. So let's run this. Okay, it's telling us that these are of complex types. So give it a try. I'll just go like this. And I'm going to run it. I just want to show you it's going to throw an error. Because it's going to wonder, hey, where is variable x? It's not defined. Okay, let's define it. So we'll say x is equal to 3 plus 5j. It's going to say, hey, y is not defined. So let's define y. Oh, there's 2 ways to get rid of this error. You could either go like that. Let's run it. So it's saying class complex. Let's take a look what it gives us as output. This is the output. And then let's try the next one. So we'll write here y equals 5j. Run it. Okay. It's not printing anything, right? Because I haven't told it to print anything. So let's run that. Should give us 5j. It's giving us, it's telling us it's complex because I didn't tell it to print the number. So here I'm telling it to print the number. I removed type here. Okay, so that's good. And then lastly, let's try z is equal to negative 5j. I'm going to run it. I'm going to tell it to print it. Okay, so it's telling us that this z is equal to 0, right, minus 5j. This is the complex number, right? And then let's see what types these are. So you could just go like this. Type, run it, and you're gonna get 3 complex type numbers. Okay. So that covers the syntax for complex type numbers. Probably not going to work with these, but in case you do, at least you're aware of the syntax. Okay. So let's close that and type, what is this? Type conversion. We're almost done. Don't worry. Okay. We have 2 more examples here to go over. So convert from one type to another. Okay. So let's try that. So here there's declaring 3 different types of 3 different types of numbers, and they're converting them using a casting function or a constructor function. And yeah, let's give it a try. Okay, so convert from int to float. So this is an int, and they're casting it into a float. Convert from float to int. Okay, this is a floating point number, and they're casting it into an int. Convert from int to complex. So this was a float, right? Because it was casted into a float. But this is actually a mistake. They made a mistake here. This should say convert from float to complex. So anyways, it should cast it into a complex number. And then, yeah, this is the output. So let's run this. And we can try it out. So if you want to try it out, if you don't need to comment out everything, just go like this and type x equals float 1. Okay, run it. Should give you the same thing. Yeah, it's a float, right? Because it has a decimal. Then try this one. So we're going to comment that out. We'll write y equals int 2.8, 2.5, whatever, 2.8. Does, as long as it has a decimal, it's a floating point number. It's a float. So we're casting a float into an int. It should give us 2. 2, see? And then the last one is we're gonna cast z into, we're gonna cast x, okay, which is a int, into a complex number. So z equals complex x. We're gonna run that. It's gonna give us complex, okay? See, type z is complex, and it's giving us this. This is from here, right? The 1. But the interesting thing here is that they used here, x is actually a floating point, right? 1.0. If you were gonna convert, in their comment here, it says from int to complex, you're better off to use y, right? Because y is 2, right? Y is an int. Okay. So let's change this to y. So that this is converting an int into a complex. And you're getting here 2, see? 2 plus j. The other one was giving us 1 plus j. Let me try this again just to see the difference. So the 2 plus, notice 2 plus j here, right? The 2. Okay. Let's run that. It should give us 1 plus j now. Yeah, 1 plus j. Okay. So better to use here y, okay, because y is an int. It was cast into an int, right? So use y. Okay, and that covers basically converting different number types into another type. Okay, into float, into int, into complex. Okay. So give that a try. And then here it says you cannot convert complex numbers into another type. That's just a point here, okay? Just remember that. You cannot convert complex numbers. Let's try it. Let's try to convert a complex number. So z is a complex number, so I'm gonna create a new variable called a, and I'm gonna try to cast this into an int. I'm gonna see what happens, and I'm gonna print and it should throw an error. Let's try. It says type cannot convert complex to int. Okay. That was expected, right? Random number. Okay. Python does not have a random function. Oh, it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't have a random function. Okay. Okay, to make a random number. But Python has a built-in module called random that can be used to make random numbers. Import the random module and display a random number between 1 and 9. Okay, so here you're importing a random number. You're importing the class random, or module, sorry, random, and then you're going to call the rand range function from the module, and you're going to look for numbers between 1 and 9, or 1 and 10. 1 to 9. Okay, let's give it a try. Let's run that. So it should give us a random number, 8. Let's run it again. Will probably give us a different number. 7. Run it again. Let's guess 2. No, 8 again. 3 this time. Okay, anyways. So it's a random number. Want you to try that on your own. Okay, so import the random module print. Okay, so basically access the rand range function from the random module by using this dot notation. So random dot rand range from 1 to 10, and then run it. What if we went from 1 to 3? What would it do? I think it would just give us between 1 and 2. 1 to 2. It's not going to give us 3, I don't think. Yeah, 1 to 2. Yeah, just between 1 and 2. So basically the 10 here, it's the number under 10. It's the number, one number below the biggest number that below the range. It doesn't go to 10, it just goes below 10. One below the upper range. Let's do this. Okay, let's change this to 10, 10 again. And it should just give us a bunch of random numbers, 4 random numbers from 1 to 9. Okay, 4 random numbers from 1 to 9. You could see how you might use this. For example, if you wanted to generate a pin or some sort of pin, you could use this random range, random module rand range function, and then it would generate your random set of a random number, right? By doing that. Yeah, what we just did. So it says, then lastly it says, in our random module reference, you will learn more about the random module. Let's take a look at that just quickly. So this is nice. If you want to take a look at all the different functions, the different methods, inside of the random module, you can take a look here. No need to look at it now though, just to show you that if you ever need to look at this. Okay. So yeah. And then I want you to try these exercises out on your own. Okay, test yourself with some exercises. So in the first one, let's just do the first one. It says, insert the correct syntax to convert x into a floating point number. Okay, so you have this variable x that you've assigned an integer 5, and you want to convert it into a floating point number. So how would you do that? Right, you'd cast it using the float constructor function. Okay, let's take a look. submit the answer, and correct. Okay, so that's the right answer. So give it a try, and thanks again for trying out the tutorial, and go in the next tutorial on this tutorial was about Python numbers, the different types of numbers in Python. In the next tutorial, we're going to look at casting. So actually I've seen a lot of these examples already, but I guess they want to be thorough and go over it again. So yeah, you're going to cast 3 different types of value, 3 different types here, using the int constructor function, float, and str. Okay, so thanks again for watching, and see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.